Hey guys, thanks for joining. So we've got several people that I know they're going to be joining us later on in the presentation, but let's go ahead and get started. So thanks for joining me today. We are going to tackle how the DTI, your debt to income, can make or break your investing career. But before we get started, if you haven't attended one of these Ash Wealth Live master classes, I do these for you, and maybe you fall in one of these categories. Maybe you've tried to invest in rental real estate before, but got totally stuck in analysis paralysis, or you have invested in a few rentals before and have hit a ceiling of growth, or you just feel overwhelmed by all the information out there and are just plain stuck. If any of these situations apply to you, then you're in the right place. You see, because what I do is I help investors who have never purchased rental real estate before, or maybe they have purchased real estate currently and they don't know how to scale. And so, guys, just so we can preserve a bandwidth for everybody, I'm going to go ahead and turn off everybody's microphones and cameras. If you got a question, feel free to pop over into the chat box and we can take everything from there. But if you don't know me, welcome. This is me. I'm Whitney. This is me and my crazy crew. I cannot believe that this photo was actually taken over a year ago. This is standing at the top of the Kobe pyramid in Mexico. And if you guys have ever been to the top of that pyramid, definitely not OSHA approved, but we're super proud of our daughter for doing this. But this is a specific reason why I invest in rental real estate, is because of the freedom it gives me. I started off living, flipping, and house hacking in 2002, and was able to build up pockets or chunks of money. But it took me a few years to really put my finger on what I needed, and that was cash flow. And also, I still was in the accumulation phase, and I wanted to be able to build not only my cash flow but also my appreciation of my assets. So I brought in my husband, and we started building a rental real estate portfolio, mostly of BRRRR rehabs initially, and scaled our portfolio that way. And then at some point in time, I went back to my husband and I was able to show him financially that I had succeeded at beating or building enough cash flow to cover all of our day-to-day expenses. And I wanted to step back from my job. And then my husband said, I want that too. So we needed to change course with our portfolio and scale it. And, fast forward today, I've been able to build over a $500 million real estate portfolio in partnership, over 4,500 units, or residential units, 1,500 self-storage. We flipped over a few million real estate. But guys, you gotta start, it's like an iceberg, right? People see the tip of the iceberg, but what they don't realize is that there's always a foundation underneath that water. And what provided me that foundation? And that was completing those first 30 units and leveraging other people's money and forced equity in the project in order to get that done. That foundation is what allowed my husband and I to scale our portfolio. And you know what? We did this all while working, taking care of a family, and still meeting all the demands in life, a wife, a mom, and at that time I was still working full-time in the corporate sector. So point is, you can do this, but there are a few keys, right? You can DIY all of this and spend a lot of time and energy and build a slower path to wealth. You can do it. It can totally be done. Or you can shortcut your path. And we're gonna, that's what this webinar series is for, is to help you guys, give you some high level tips and tricks to help you shortcut your path, but also orient you to the various solutions that I can provide to you to shortcut your path to growth. So what makes what I'm going to share today different? Well, on all of these webinars, I am hounding on 3 key things that you must have in place in order to build your rental real estate portfolio. And these are things that I've discovered over the last 18 years. You have to have the right financial plan, investing plan in place. And I've got a plan that, I see a couple of one of my students on here. Yay, thanks for coming, Brian. And that investing plan, it orients you and it gets you started, and it can help you shortcut your growth as you build your portfolio. Also, you have to be able to put in place repeatable systems and build the right team in order to get this done and execute on systems. And then lastly, once you get number one in place, the plan, your systems and the right team in place, then you got to get savvy enough and learn how to scale with other people's money to accelerate your wealth. Guys, there are no rewards for building your own portfolio all in cash. Okay. Now, there's a phase in life where you might want to have that, your portfolio paid off. But in order, if you are in the accumulation phase and are in the scaling phase, there are no rewards doing this 100% in cash. And I'll show you how. All right. And the results, all of this. Large portfolio value, tons of units under my belt, but the biggest result is that I have 100% choice in how I spend my time. And I love, love, love working with you guys, newer investors, in order to start launching you guys down your path of investing the right way, the safe way. Okay. Now let's dive into today's topic, which is how DTI, your debt to income, can make or break your investing career. Okay. Whoop. Yeah, technology eluded me today. Sorry, guys. So let's talk about the couple different components when we talk about debt to income. Okay. First, let's understand how it all gets calculated. All right. So first, you have to add up, if you're going to calculate your own debt to income. Now, this is a measure that when you apply for lending, remember one of those key pillars to scaling success is using other people's money. Lending is one of those pillars, okay? You have to have a decent debt to income ratio, okay? Now, when we're talking about the lending markets, qualified mortgages, the debt to income lending ratio is actually 43%. Now, Congress, after the last recession, raised that to 50. It was called a qualified mortgage patch. Okay, that patch is actually set to expire this month, which means if it expires and is not renewed, the debt to income ratio drops to 43%. Now, before you bite your nails and go, oh my gosh, this could really throw me off on my investing, this is just for those government-sponsored entities like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae. Okay. And then two, the current administration is probably going to keep that qualified mortgage patch intact. And honestly, majority of it's favorable amongst most people and across Congress. So I don't see it going away, but it is a reality at some point in time, debt to income will go from 50% down to that 43 or even lower. But I don't see that happening right now. But it's good, again, knowing what those ratios are. That way you can plan in the future for those changes and not get caught off guard, right? How many of you today, if the debt to income ratio dropped from 50% down to 43%, would be okay with your lending? Not many. Most people would get kind of thrown under the bus and their lending would stop. All right, so let's talk about how it gets calculated. And again, guys, this is for our government sponsored loans, conventional mortgages, which are like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae. Okay, so our debt, what you're going to do is you're going to add up all your debt. Okay, and this is your required payments. And now think of your consumer debt. Okay, credit card payments, card loan payments, any other payments on for loans, personal loans that you have put a personal guarantee on. Then you're going to add up all your operational expenses. Now, you need to look at your credit report, all right? Because if you have multiple properties, any property that falls in your personal credit report is going to get calculated into your debt to income, all right? So and it's not just the payment that you're making, okay? You have to add up principal, interest, taxes and insurance, and HOA for all of those properties, right? This is why I'm not a fan of condos, because those HOAs can really throw off your debt to income, all right? And then the last part of the debt piece that you need to add in there is any qualified income documented for the past 2 years on your taxes, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? So we are going to pin that debt against that qualified income. I actually put it in the wrong column, guys. It should be over here under income, and it is, yay! So we are going to take all that debt And then we're going to divide it by the income. Okay, so your any qualified income documented for the last 2 years. Okay, several people that I talk to initially, they'll start doing things under the table and getting paid for cash and not claiming it on your tax return. Well, I understand how you might be wanting to avoid paying taxes. However, that can actually cut against you when you go for lending. I know we have a CPA on here today. I'm not going to like put you on the spot, but I'm sure he's run into several times where, you know, somebody has had income and they're just like, oh man, I didn't put it on my taxes. And that's like actually, you know, deterred them from their goals. So qualified income, this can be W-2, it can be any self-employment income, whether it's a Schedule C income or if you have like an LLC elected as an S Corp, or your rental income. All right, all of that can get lumped together. And so anything for the last 2 years that is documented on your income taxes. All right, so let's move to the next screen. And of course, I copied the same error over slide to slide. We'll just roll with it. So let's do the math. So we're going to take that total debt that you calculated divided by the total income. All right, and then you're going to multiply it by 100 because it's a percentage. Okay, so if you want an online calculator, here's a cool link. This is a site run by Fannie Mae. It's called knowyouroptions.com. And this has a debt to income calculator where you can plug everything in. Okay, but a pretty simple calculation. And again, this is all the debt that occurs on your credit report. So this is where some people get really savvy and they're like, ooh, I'm going to start buying properties in an LLC and getting non-recourse lending. And that's where you can kind of, another option around this debt to income rule, so to speak. Now, as of June 2020, the DTI for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac is 45%, okay? And you have to have good credit and good reserves. All right. Now you're just like, well, Whitney, you just said it was 43 and the top was 50. That's because the floor is 43% right now. And most people can qualify for some sort of exemption that gets them up to 50% debt to income. Okay. So that is the range. But right now, under standard underwriting, 45%. If you hit 45% lower on your DTI, you can essentially check this box. But that's not it. Right? It's not just some sort of like magical calculation, okay? That would, you know, this DTI actually cuts a lot further into our investing career. You see, it can actually impact our credit worthiness, okay? It can keep us, you know, from getting some sort of job, right? Because, you know, this DTI, I mean, it's not going to be published on your credit report, but certainly, all that debt is logged on your credit report, okay? And so like if you're taking any sort of like government position that could be skewed as that you could, you know, be impacted. I know a friend of mine is in the foreign service and he has to keep an impeccable credit record because, and it's DTI low because they don't want him going over to some foreign country and being bought off in some form or fashion, all right? Here's another cool like website. When I first heard about this website called WorldCheck, my mind was just blown. So not only do you want to check your credit report, you want to check your entire report. And what do I mean your entire report? This WorldCheck report will actually capture all data from potentially every link that you've clicked on a social media website, any post or comment that you've made, a like. It tracks this data and flags whether you're a potential threat or not. Calculated in this is your debt to income. I was blown away when I heard that this report actually exists. And the reason why I know is a friend of mine actually got shut down from lending, and when he couldn't figure it out because of his credit report, but when he went and pulled his WorldCheck report, he had made some crass comments on the wrong website and they shut him down. He was considered a risk. All right, so a little bonus out there to check out. Also, your DTI can, you know, obviously impact you from being able to get a loan, both a consumer loan, but also a business loan, okay? Because if you go into commercial financing and you have to personally guarantee that loan, they will pull your credit report. And if your DTI is too high, they may consider you a business risk. Okay. Also, and then, pull this all together, it can impact your ability to scale your portfolio. Okay. Especially using other people's money. Then you have to figure out how to buy all in cash, whether it's your cash or somebody else's cash, like private lending cash. All right, so there's a little rule here. You definitely want to make sure that you're keeping your your personal debt down, right? There's several things that you can do here, but we'll go into these in greater detail. Personal debt down, getting your income higher. But when it comes to our real estate properties, our income properties, the magic number you want to keep above is 1.25 debt service coverage ratio. And why is that? Is because then all the income on the property can actually pay all of the expenses. And instead of adding debt to your balance sheet, you're adding income. All right. Now, you might talk to a lender and that lender says, oh, I can take a 1.2 debt service coverage ratio or a 1.15. That might seem fine initially, but remember, if you fall below this 1.25, you're now adding debt to your balance sheet and inflating your debt to income ratio. And eventually you'll get cut off. I'm raising my hand here. You guys can't see it. It has happened to me because I bought my first few properties at 1.2 debt service coverage ratio. And when I went to buy my first few properties on a commercial loan, I couldn't get it because I had to personally guarantee it. And they said, nope, you got to get it to 1.25. All right. Now, I dug in, I raised my rents on those properties, and then I was able to take care of that. But that's not, you guys are smart, you're here, you're learning, and we want to make sure that we are covering that initially as we build our portfolio. All right. So how can we manage our debt to income? Let's go through this in a little bit more with a finer tooth comb. So review you and your partner's credit report. Okay, so pull both of your credits. You can get a free credit report from each one of like TransUnion, Experian, and Equimax. You can get a free report once a year. So I would stagger each one of those reports like every 4 months. So you're monitoring your credit throughout the year. You can also use sites like creditkarma.com to monitor your credit as well. But if you want to make sure your official credit report is clean. So I highly suggest pulling those reports on an ongoing basis and going through them with a fine-tooth comb. Okay, so you want to dispute anything on these credit reports that are irregular. Okay, remember, if it's irregular debt, if it's a loan that's been closed already, we want it off. We don't want it hanging out there. I went to close on a refinance earlier this summer, and one of my lenders, I had sold a property last year, and the lender was just being super lazy about reporting to the credit agency that loan had been satisfied. However, I knew it had been satisfied. They knew it had been satisfied, but my credit report showed I still owed on the debt. Okay, so it was throwing off my debt to income trying to close this refinance. All right, so we want to dispute anything that's irregular. We also want to dispute any negative info that's on there. Okay, now gray line here, most creditors, if you dispute this with one of the 3 agencies, the agency will have to remove it from your credit report until the creditor can prove that it's actually a negative impact to you. A lot of times creditors will ignore those requests and then that negative information drops off. Okay, what would rolling lates? You could, maybe you paid your credit card on day 35 when it was due at day 31. And it hit your credit report. Those type of things you can actually have removed. Okay. Or you can just simply go to the creditor and ask to have it removed. That's another way you can do it. You can just go to them first. You can also, this is getting a little bit beyond DTI, but especially if we're talking about credit and DTI plays into credit, you can actually ask creditors to raise your credit limits. Okay, that'll also help throw you on, give you a higher credit score. And then of course, pay every bill in full and on time, and you shouldn't have any problems, right? But back to DTI, what else can we do to manage it? Well, it's really a function of two levers. Three, if we're gonna get really, really technical about it. One, decrease your expenses, okay? Especially focusing on consumer debt, okay? Getting rid of those high interest credit card payments first and then high balances next, okay? I'm not saying pay off your mortgages. Don't pay off debt that can be outsourced, but pay off debt that is consumer and that you actually have to pay on an ongoing basis. Then you can increase your income, okay? And make sure your income is actually reported on your taxes, all right? And in here is kind of my third lever, and that's add additional streams of income. So we're gonna focus on getting a raise, but also add additional streams of income. Get a side hustle, start building some rentals. That's also all gonna play into helping you manage your debt to income a lot better. All right. And honestly, like if we're talking just overall business, these are the levers that you pull with your rental real estate, right? You're going to decrease your debt expenses, but your tenant's going to pay it down. You want to increase your income, okay? Increase the rents on the property. And then if you can add additional streams of income by adding more rentals or even adding additional streams of income on your rentals, say like, you know, washer and dryer rentals or storage lockers or something like that, you're going to also help out your DTI as well. All right. So hopefully you guys have found that, you know, all this information well worth your time. And if you got any questions, I would love for you to go over to the chat box and type them in. Let's make sure to get those questions answered. All right. Well, while you guys are typing in questions, again, I do these for you. And if you're just here for the information, that's totally fine. Continue coming. If you are actually wanting to build and scale your portfolio, then, and if you want help with it, you know, make sure to stick around here for the next few minutes. I'm going to go over a solution that could be right for you. Okay. So, because what I share in these quick little sessions, little videos, is just kind of skimming the top, right? You know, if you want the full-on education, the accountability and support in order to build your rental real estate portfolio, I highly suggest you check out the Investor Accelerator. This is a year-long mastermind, and it has several different components. Like if you think of like a three-legged stool, it's great to have just the education, but you need to be able to implement. All right. So this particular program, we've got an educational component. All right. Ooh, well, obviously, who is it for? We can capture that real quick. It's like for new investors, people who are doing this on the side, or maybe you already have rental real estate and are trying to overcome scaling issues. But as you're building this, you know, considering the Investor Accelerator, we've got our educational component. We've got our private community for ongoing support. I'm in that community on a daily basis, as well as you know, connecting people on 2 coaching calls a month. One, we focus on business growth and accountability. Another one on building your skills and your network, okay, so you can go further faster. We have office hours every week, so there is no reason why you should not keep moving forward between sessions, okay? And then really, I told you at the very beginning, there's 3 fundamental components that you must have to succeed at investing. You have to have the right plan, the right systems, and the people to run those systems, and then be able to scale with other people's money. All of my systems and checklists and templates for all 3 of those components are in this course. If I develop something for my own investing, it goes in here. And if you're interested, you know, I'll show you how you can apply to the Investor Accelerator. But I'll also throw in a strategic one-on-one planning session with me directly. I also throw in all of my contacts. So again, shortcutting that path to growth, right? I find so many investors spending their time on things that actually aren't going to move the needle for them. So how can we essentially collapse? You know, it's funny. I asked the question, what's the quickest way to get from point A to point B? Most people say draw a straight line. Well, what if we actually bent the paper? all right? What if you didn't have to travel that line? What if you borrowed somebody else's systems and collapsed the time, all right? So that's what's in this accelerator for you. Let me just show you really quickly how you can apply. What we'll do, once you apply, we'll hop on the phone and make sure it's a good fit for you. Question came in. I have 5 rental properties with my son. The mortgages are all in my name since his credit isn't great. This kills my DTI since I retired with no W-2 income. All properties cash flow nicely. Is there a way to get the mortgages out of my name? The DTI as this prevents us from buying more properties. Have you actually tried getting commercial financing and putting a commercial financing loan on it? That would be my first question. Like maybe a portfolio loan, something that's non-recourse, not in your name. And if the properties all are 1.25 or greater, I can't see why a bank wouldn't do a commercial portfolio loan, and that would get those off your credit report. Another thing is you could leave those all in your name. Oh yeah, no, most people don't think that they can actually just switch the type of lending, right? There's 2 different ways you can do this, right? You could, like I said, you could do the portfolio loan, get this all out of your name, okay? Take advantage of the low interest rates now, get them in a business, probably put them in, maybe they're an LLC, maybe they're not, but the loan and the title to the LLC, that's very important. I know a lot of people will close on their property and move title into the LLC, but the thing is your mortgage is still recorded with the county. So a creditor or predator can still find you. So you're not as sheltered as you think you are, right? However, another way to do it is you could leave the loans intact as is and try to buy through an LLC. Where you will probably get stuck if you're buying individual properties and having to do recourse lending is that they're going to underwrite you and or your son and for a personal guarantee, and you may not qualify for that. So that's another way to do it. You could just switch over and get commercial lending, right? I would explore doing a portfolio loan right now, especially 5 rental properties. Most portfolio lenders look for an initial portfolio value of like $500,000, $500,000. And if you can hit that mark and you can hit a 1.25 DSCR, honestly, I would explore that option first. What other questions do you guys have? Whoa. Sorry, guys. Clicking around here. Well, hey guys, I'll hang out here for a couple more minutes, but just thank you so much for taking the time to invest in yourself and spending it here with me. If you want help building your portfolio and you're ready to collapse time and move farther, faster, make sure to go over to ashwealth.com/apply, and we'll set up a time to talk and make sure it's the right fit for you.